All right, guys, what is up? Welcome to the Transparency Sunday Night Live. Really quick. Oh boy. Whew. All right, really quick. At some point, you guys are gonna have an opinion about this video, so thumbs it up, thumbs it down. Don't just sit there. I mean, if I'm gonna watch something, if I watch it for just a little bit, that means I didn't like it, so thumbs it down. If I stick around, thumbs it up. Anyways, it is Sunday night. It's been Sunday all day. If you did not catch my earlier live, make sure you go back and watch it. It has to do about the Vampire Diaries episode, and that Dylan basically recites what she heard the person in the house say was actually the words of Stefan from Vampire Diaries, who also has bushy eyebrows, by the way. So go check that out. So this is Truth and Transparency, and I'm Lana. Here you go. Just a quick update. On the 18th, both the defense and the state filed their responses to the judge saying, hey, these are I think it's like 43 different. Do you guys have an opinion if this becomes unsealed? Put it in writing, make it very specific. So both the state and the defense did that on the 18th of the month. It just has not been updated to the actual, like we can't see it yet. But he put that out on the 4th of August. They responded on the 18th. And yeah, that's where we're at with unsealing documents. So in case you guys are wondering, here you go. That's that. That's an update in the case. Now, some more house cleaning really quick. Now, Dustin Blaker interviewed Bethany Funk. She had her interview in front of the cop, Mitch, on body cam. Then they went back to the station, and her and Dylan were both interviewed. One was by Mowry, and the other one was by, I want to say, Payne or Blaker. And then Dylan was interviewed on the 17th by Vicky Gooch and Blaker. And on the 16th, though, Bethany had an interview with Blaker with the Nevada police. Okay. And so something that I want to show everybody is Bethany was asked to talk about Saturday. And Bethany reveals that she has a device, or I'm sorry, on her device, she has something called Find My Friends. Okay. And how she was able to tell on Saturday morning when she woke up and everybody was gone except for Ethan, how she was able to determine where everybody was is she used right here. She used the Find My Friends app, and she saw that they were all at Taco Bell at that time. So my question would be is, you would think that you would use that same app to determine where your friends were on the morning of the 13th. There's no mention of that. In fact, what Bethany does say is that she tells Blaker that, because Blaker asks a question, and there you go. So here, Bethany told me that after trying to get to contact the other roommates, she fell back to sleep and then woke up at around 7:30 in the morning and tried to call her dad. This is on the 16th. Remember, none of this was said about her tooth. It was said, though, in the video that she had woke up around 6 or 7 and that she had taken Advil. So if you actually saw the body camera that's circling around, she basically took the Advil before she even talked to her parents, based on the timeline that's said. But I'm going to give Bethany some grace there with, she just didn't say, I called my dad and blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. But here's where it gets interesting, is that after she had talked to her family, her dad called back because she was trying to call him at 7:30. Then she calls again, finally gets in touch with him. He ends up calling back, whatever, 8:09. And she eventually took Advil for her tooth. She was mentioning that was her jaw. But Bethany then says that she fell back to sleep. Bethany woke up at around 11, okay, and noticed, a key word is noticed. And this is why I believe that Blaker inquired about this when she says that she had noticed that No one else in the house was up. No one else. What about Dylan that's right next to you? But no one else was up in the house. And that Bethany stated she knew this, because Blaker would probably be like, well, how did you notice that nobody else was up? Well, Bethany stated that she knew this because Xana's Snapchat location was not on, and it should have been on. You guys ready for this? Want me to blow your minds really quick? Well, do me a favor. I'm going to blow your minds really quick. Let me know where you are watching the video from, whether you want to replay or whether you're watching it live. Don't dox yourself, but I always like to see where people are watching it from. If you're watching from the United States, if you're not, name the country, name the state that you're watching it from. Okay, well, right here, Ann Taylor files a motion back in the day, and it was the defense motion. Defendant objects to the state's motion limine. It's the text messages and testimony, and this whole part about why Ann Taylor was objecting to this is because the state wanted to introduce these text messages for a timeline and also for present sense and excited utterance. Okay. Well, yeah, you did that you were able to get away with that during the grand jury because, quote unquote, you didn't have all the information. Well, guess what? You don't always get all the information when you don't ask questions and when you don't actually, extract people's data and go and dive for it. So, but I want to point out here that Ann Taylor points out that this is not an exhaustive list, okay, but says, hey, what we have right here is that morning, Bethany accessed Instagram, and then it was nothing from 4:37 to 7:30, and then this is when the calling starts with Bethany. If you look through this, if Bethany says at 11 when she woke up and she noticed that Xana, her Snapchat maps wasn't on, okay, well, that would mean that you'd have to get on Snapchat to notice that, okay? Well, guess what? Bethany, okay, does not get on Snapchat. In fact, Bethany does not use her phone from the point that she calls her dad and has that conversation at 8:09. From 8:05 and 43 seconds to 10, that has to do with DM. So here, keep this in mind, at 8:09 a.m., that's Bethany's last interaction that Ann Taylor wants to talk about, until she mentions, here at 9:04, just because Bethany's mom texts her, that does not mean that you have to see when Bethany actually viewed it, okay? And you cannot go through all of this and you're going to see it's DM, 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 DM. Right here, it's not till 11:49 when BF actually, you can say, uses her phone to make a command, okay? Now, why this is important is because the state, it's for numerous reasons. For you guys here today, it's important because Bethany tells Blaker that she notices that nobody's up and all this stuff because of she'd have to get on Snapchat. Well, I'm supplying you with information to show you that Bethany never got on Snapchat at 11 a.m. Okay, Bethany never did that. Bethany was also dressed in a Tom Brady jersey. I don't know if you guys know this, but Tom Brady played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that year in 2022. And on November 13th, Tom Brady was playing against the Seattle Seahawks in a 6:30 a.m. kickoff for those of people that would be watching in Moscow, Idaho. And if you're a Tom Brady fan, you'd have to get up and watch that game at 6:30 in the morning. 6:30 a.m. because it was the Germany game. They were playing in Germany. Okay, so the Seahawks were playing against Tampa Bay, and that was Tom Brady when he, went over from the Patriots. But Bethany is wearing a damn Tom Brady jersey. I can promise you that Bethany did not go to bed in a Tom Brady jersey, okay? Now, here, if you look at this, is what the state is saying that, hey, they're trying to make it seem like, they go to bed, they wake up, and they're not waking up until this time. Remember all this talk? Well, not only does Ann Taylor say that's just not true, we have way more information now from the time point that you guys had the grand jury. And just because that's how Judge found, which is fine with the information that he was provided, it's only because the detectives made it so that the other stuff wasn't discoverable at that point, because they didn't open up and it didn't extract anything and didn't look at anything that they could say that. But right here, I make a note and says, no, Bethany on Snapchat at 11 a.m. Okay? She did not get on Snapchat, which means that she could not have checked Xana's Snapchat location if she doesn't get on Snapchat. So people could say, well, why is this important? Well, I would think that that's a lie. That's why it's important. And because of what I just told you 5 minutes ago, which was Bethany tells Blaker that if she wants to know where her roommates are, she gets on the app called Find My Friends, because she has everybody's, that's how she checked and saw on Saturday morning where everybody was. She looked on Find My Friends app. So why wouldn't she do the same thing on Sunday morning? Find My Friends app. In fact, why wouldn't she do that, I don't know, at 4 o'clock in the morning or at 4:30 in the morning? Again, where this all comes from is it's Bethany's own mouth when she discloses to Blaker and says that on Saturday morning she checked her Find My Friends app and saw that they were all at Taco Bell. Okay? Now, the other thing I want to point out about Bethany is okay. Right here. Bethany says that she said that the door was partially opened, but say that the door should normally be, it would have been closed. It was partially open. Well, this is really interesting, because if the door is partially open, which means it's partially closed, right? Partially open means, another way to say that is the door is partially open. Well, the door was partially closed. That would impede your ability to see in if you were Dylan and running down to go downstairs. Okay? That would hinder your line of sight. So just telling that to everybody that Bethany said that the door was partially opened, but stated the door should normally and would be closed. Well, how would she know that unless she was up there? And if this is in fact true, then how did Dylan see anything, right? And the reason that this is all going to become important is as soon as we get the audio of the interviews, because I don't trust Blaker for a second. You want to know why I don't trust Blaker? Because let's look at when he actually wrote this report up. He wrote this report up the day before they arrest Brian Koberger. He did this interview on November 16th, 2022. He waits to write up the report 12/28. That's flat out insane. Like, that's insanity. And it's biased at that point. Now you're going to pick and choose what you're going to put in a report off of what you're listening to. It's that simple. Recently, as in like just a couple days ago, Captain Dollinger came out and said that I have no idea who spread this rumor that said that Dylan told the police that she saw, or that her words were, I'm here for you, Kaylee. Well, it's not a secret where that came from. That came from Blaker telling that to Idaho State Police Officer Jeffrey Talbot. That's where that came from. And it's in a report, and it's the first, I think it's report 32. I'll grab it for you guys. here it is. It's report 32, like I said. And this is Detective Blaker provided me, meaning Jeffrey Talbot, with the following verbal briefing. And right here, sometime in the early morning hours, blank was awoken and opened her door. And we all know this is not true. Okay, like she wasn't awoken. Bethany says that, or Dylan says that she was awake. But this is how the game telephone works. And blank and heard a male say, "It's okay, Kaylee, I'm here for you," and crying. So I have no idea why Captain Dullinger doesn't understand where this came from. I'm going to sit here and show you where it came from. Jeffrey Talbot is saying that he was verbally briefed by Moscow Police Department's own Detective Blaker on 11/13 at 2:41 p.m. When was this wrote up, though? Right? That's what I would want to know. I think he wrote up on 12/12, 12/6. But that's where it's from. So Dullinger came out, literally was interviewed by Fox Seattle. Okay. And it's right here. Okay. Just so we're clear, Idaho State Police does not have body cams and did not wear body cams. So Jeffrey Talbot could not go back and watch a body cam that he would have been wearing. Okay. I did a FOIA request. It came back. Idaho State Police, they were not wearing body cams. Not one time at any point in time during this investigation was Idaho State Police ever wearing body cams. Period. Never happened. So, again, this is the game of either telephone or this is the game when you, but it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's written here in a report. Okay. And for Jeffrey Talbot to write, "It's okay, Kaylee, I'm here for you." That's where it's from. Jeffrey Talbot wrote it. Detective Blaker, according to Jeffrey Talbot, told him that. And let me tell you something. That is absolutely absurd that Detective Baker or Blaker would be telling anybody anything when it comes to Dylan, because guess who interviewed Dylan on 11/13? Not Blaker. Blaker did not interview Dylan unless Blaker was in that room and he just didn't tell anybody that he was in that room. But Blaker was not there for Dylan's statements to Mitch Noonan's, and Blaker was not there for Dylan's 11/13 interview. Now, the title of this episode is Idaho State Police Report 149, and something crazy happens on December 7th. And this takes place at Moscow Police Department. And what's crazy about it is that, remember Ann Taylor was like, "Give me Gary Tolson's training records." Gary Tolson is a senior detective with the Idaho State Police. He did not originate with the Idaho State Police. He actually moved, and I want to say from California, but I could be wrong. But I know that Tolson was not born and raised in Idaho. Anyways, Ann Taylor's like, give me that man's trading records. And I think to me it's funny because me and Gary Tolson, as well as Mike Van Leuven, have some history. And that's because of the Brian Drake, Dr. Moore case. And those two freaking fracks, they were leading the way with Leslie Lehman and Rich Alderson and Brittany Clark. And just, holy shit, they are bad. So on December 7th, Gary Tolson here. Gary Tolson seems to think that as a senior detective, he doesn't know how to write a report. And he's like a trainer. Like, he trains people. Like, wow. But right here where it says report date, it's when you actually sit your fat ass down to your computer and you type up your report. It is not the day that you did the task. It is the day that you put your fat ass in that chair and started typing up your report. That's what this date is for. Okay? Period. Tolson says that he sat his fat ass in a chair on 12/7 and wrote this report. That is not true. In fact, it's going to be somewhere right before March 1st, 2023, that he wrote this report. Wait, all of December, all of January, all of February. Oh my God. 3 months. Now, on December 7th, 2022, Idaho State Police Senior Detective Gary Tolson, along with Idaho State Police Detective Cody Herman, interviewed blank, okay, at the Moscow Police Department. Awesome, thank you. On December 6th, though, Senior Detective Gary Tolson, was assigned to hand out adult victim background questionnaires, and those can be better known as AVBQs, by Idaho State Police Detective Joe Lake, because Joe Lake was running the victimology team for the case. Joe Lake is with Idaho State Police. Jennifer Drake likes to email with Joe Lake. Let's just say that. That's how I know that name, Jennifer Drake. I was given several people to contact, says Gary Tolson. One of those was this person, who was a blank friend of Kaylee. Did I see that? See where it says interview number 6787? I said, whoa. I said, what is that? You know? Anyways, I telephoned blank on December 7th, 2022, and she answered the phone. Guess what she did? She agreed to come down to the Moscow Police Department. Okay. At 3:45 on December 7th. At the police department, she was met by Detective Cody Herman and myself. Good old Gare. I gave her the adult victim background questionnaire to read and fill out. After she filled the AVBQ out, Detective Herman and I spoke with her, going over the questionnaire. This interview was recorded with her knowledge and permission. This person told us that she thought that Kaylee was, all of this has to be redacted. I was like, whoa. And was rarely in contact with them. And I'm like, wait, what? What is this even about? I'm like, what is this about? I'm like, am I reading this right? I was like, blank told us that she thought Kaylee was, all of this is redacted, and was rarely in contact with them. Kaylee considered Maddie her closest quote unquote family member. Kaylee's ex-boyfriend, blank. Obviously, we know who that is. And Kaylee were still on good terms after their breakup. She knew that Kaylee had worked at a blank blank in Coeur d'Alene and blank in a restaurant in the CDA in the past. As far as she knew, Kaylee fully supported herself and paid for all the expenses while going to college. Her current job was with an online business who was owned by a blank, and a blank. Would love to know what that is. This girl had planned on moving to Austin, Texas, and she had a roommate lined up from the blank sorority. So, blank was who was moving in with her. A copy of the AVBQ is attached to the supplemental report. I transferred the recorded interview. It was on a compact disc and turned it over to the Moscow Police Department. I said, what? This is the only one I could find. I was like, wait, who is this person and why is she saying this? And this is on 12/7. And who told her to contact this person? Meaning Gary, if Gary Tolson was supposed to contact these people, right? There's multiple people, not just this person. Where are these other ones? This is the only one that Gary Tolson uploaded, made a report about. I'm like, okay, this is kind of strange. And this really goes heavily against the narrative. Okay. And so, she said that the time period that she, like August 2019 to present, the last time that she was in contact with Kaylee was on 11/11. And I was like, oh my gosh. List and identify Kaylee's family members. And so like they redacted all of that. And then I was like, describe the quality, positive and negative, of Kaylee's relationships. I'm like, how would she know about Kaylee's relationships with anybody? You know what I mean? This is all hearsay. This is all like, wow. But it says family, mom, and dad, and has to redact all of that. Considered Maddie closest family member. And this was Jack right here, went back and forth, and we're on good terms. And then I was trying to figure out who this person was, like who would be saying this. Kaylee was stubborn. Liked to argue, and wanted to win every argument. Headstrong, fearless. She wanted to experience everything. Describe Kaylee's personal habits. Remember, this all has to do with victimology. She was very much into social media, always on her phone and following trends. Okay. 3, describe any recent positive or negative personality, emotional changes you've observed in Kaylee. And now look at this, like this typed up sheet. Okay, this is really specific, because this isn't just like, it doesn't say the word victim. Okay, it says her name there. Like this typed up sheet. It was very specific. Like this is about, I remember why you would probably need to do that is because you have 4 victims, right? So she was very excited. We were finishing our college careers and wanted to leave Moscow. Wanted something new. Also recently single. So she wanted to go out more and try new things. List any significant events prior to Kaylee's death, relationship problems, work problems, family issues, etc. She just said her and Jack ended on good terms and her job was going well. Really insightful. Describe any potential risk or risky behaviors, drug transactions, excessive use of alcohol, drinking and driving, online activities. So what did Kaylee engage in? Kaylee would sometimes communicate with blank on social media. What? What do you mean blank on social media? Strangers? I mean, that's way longer than strangers. I was like, Jesus. Describe Kaylee's daily schedule. She would wake up, take Murphy out, get on her computer and work. When she was done working, we would take our dogs on play dates. So I was like, okay, we can eliminate everybody that does not have a dog. You know what I mean? And she'd go home and have dinner with her roommates. Describe any recent changes in that schedule. Well, nothing. Nothing different during this week. She would go out almost every weekend with Maddie. Social and interpersonal relationships. Maddie, 6th grade. This person, ex-boyfriend, freshman year of high school. Has this person, the person to whom Kaylee was closest, changed recently? If so, how and why? Blank has been upset and grieving. Jack. Describe any instance where Kaylee ever discussed or displayed fear, concern, or discomfort about a particular person or situation. Nothing. Nothing. I don't believe that it is Jordan, no. I know people are in chat are asking, is this Jordan? And the reason I say that it's not is because I think it's just, I think Van Leuven, when he, or not Van Leuven, but Tolson, when he went ahead and did this, I think he just accidentally, right here, I think Kaylee had planned on moving to Austin and she had a roommate lined up. I think he just accidentally, whoever redacted this, redacted it, and it shouldn't have been. Kaylee should have been, you should have been able to see that. And so, from the blank sorority, blank who was moving in with her, like, so no, I don't think that this is Jordan. So moving on, just to help the people in the chat. Okay, so then it was, the next question was, describe anyone with whom Kaylee did not get along with or experienced conflict. Can't think of anyone specifically. Just her typical arguments with friends here and there. Well, who would be those people? But yeah. And then really interesting here, the redaction is in a really odd place, but the part of the question is redacted. Okay. Anyone who showed a romantic or personal interest in Kaylee. And I don't know, like, again, I have no idea what this is for. Can't think of names, but a member of a fraternity. And then again, maybe she scribbled something here. I don't know. But number 6 is describe Kaylee's reputation among people she knew and or who knew her. Love and fun. Loved and fun. Loved and fun. Wanted everyone to have a good time. Always up for an adventure. I would say that's pretty accurate. Describe how Kaylee interacted with strangers. Very friendly. Very friendly. Loud. Could be loud. Could be loud. Loved. She's loud and fun. I would go with loud. Describe how Kaylee interacted with strangers. Well, very friendly with strangers. Okay. Education, employment. Where was Kaylee employed at the time of her death? How long had she been employed there? Well, online company, just recently. She worked with another member of our house. Boom. And I was like, oh boy. I said, who's that? I have gone through all of these reports and I have not come across one report, not one yet. And I'm going through them again to see if I missed it. I have, and this would just be Idaho State Police and the Moscow Police Department. Well, I guess as well as Pullman. But yeah, this would be all the FBI. Where is the person that was in one of the houses that actually worked for the same company? Because that would make sense to me on how Kaylee would have ever found out about this online company, which is, the Extreme Networks. Okay. So, hey, again, this is Kaylee working. She, this online company, she just recently began working there. She said she worked with, it's another member of our house. Okay. Next. Describe any online activities in which Kaylee engaged, which resulted in financial gain. OnlyFans, sugar babies. Okay. You guys, I told you, remember that live I did back in the day? And I said, you guys, have you guys ever heard about sugar babies? And if you guys Google or look in the YouTube search bar and you write Truth and Transparency Sugar Babies, that episode's going to pop up. Okay. I put that episode out there. I mean, just Google, just search it. Literally, that is one of the questions, and put in the parentheses of what the FBI in the victimology task team over here wanted to know, and sugar babies was listed. And she says, none that I knew. We joked about it. And you're going to sit here, if Van Leuven, if Gary Tolson and this Cody Herman guy say that they went through her questionnaire after she wrote it all out, then she said she'd sit down there and they asked her questions about it. Don't you think that they would have said and asked more specifically, okay, you guys joked about it. Well, which one was it? OnlyFans or sugar babies, or was there a different one? Is there any way that she just didn't tell you that she was doing it and then she did it? You know what I mean? And that's for all the questions. But look at, this is Gary Tolson's type of work. He said he sat down and went through this with her. And this is what his report consisted of. This would be like Alan Jackson asking, well, so Mr. Tolson, is there any, could you only use half of the page where you told you cannot go past half of the page? So one would have to listen to this interview because this is all you wrote up. Like literally what Gary Tolson wrote was what was on the paper. There's no follow-ups to this shit. This is unbelievable. And why would you wait so long to write a report about this? What's the problem with this? And there's only one thing that I can think of is why you would hang on to this and not do anything with it, like you do with everything else that you're doing. This is Gary's follow-up. Gary's follow-up is literally typing up what is literally on the piece of paper that she wrote on. List Kaylee's past employment. Coffee shop in CDA. So they got me thinking, and I'm like, well, she was a waitress at a Mexican restaurant. That's not on there. And she babysat for the football coaches. That's not on there. And she worked at a place called Jitters. It's Jitterz. I've been in Idaho a couple different times, and I went to the place. It's really strange how Idaho operates, just because it's not, when I say it's strange, it's just not what I see over here in lovely Ohio. But there is just you could be just driving along these 2-lane highways, and you just pull off the side of the road because there's a little coffee shack that looks like a shed. And in it is truly 1 or 2 people, and they're serving coffee. And you just pull off and you just get your coffee and you just get back on and you just go. And I'm like, wow, I've just never seen anything like this before. So I learned something new when I went out to Idaho. So that's that. Next up is describe time Kaylee spent on other campuses or with individuals associated with universities besides the University of Idaho. Well, Washington State, we'd go to the bars. That's interesting. You know, what bars? I mean, you're going to sit here and tell me that Gary Tolson couldn't read this and just say, "Oh, okay, can you give me some of the names of the bars?" I mean, like what? This was never getting solved without Othram. Did Kaylee attend class at any other university besides the University of Idaho? If so, which ones and when? No. Describe Kaylee's cell phone use, hobbies, and leisure. On her phone a lot. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. Okay. Describe Kaylee's social media use, apps, usernames, frequency of use, etc. Okay. And I'm guessing this could be potentially blacked out because it's talking about maybe like a username. Because look at how it says Instagram. It's like then she's taking an arrow and she's like, this is that username, you know. So she says that she used social media a lot. You know, who doesn't right now at this age? Outside of home, school, and work, how/where did Kaylee spend most of her time? With her dog Murphy. She doesn't say at the corner club. She with her dog Murphy. Well, it says outside of home, school, and work. So it's saying places, okay? How and where did Kaylee spend most of her time? Okay, with her dog Murphy. Where? At her house? At dog parks? I mean, what they're trying to figure out is where somebody could have come in contact with Kaylee, where somebody could have crossed paths with Kaylee. And so you're going to sit here and tell me that this senior detective doesn't know what a victimology adult background sheet's all for? That when you're going to sit down and go over her questions or go over the questions and see what her answers are, you don't know how to ask questions to get a better answer than with her dog Murphy. Okay, that's great that she wrote that down. Now it's your job as the detective to say, okay, I noticed that you said with her dog Murphy. Where would she go with Murphy? What dog parks? You know, did she take Murphy to get groomed? I mean, come on. This is just sick. But then again, somebody like Gary Tolson thinks that chiropractor killed another chiropractor over patience. Fucking crazy, man. Okay, with whom did Kaylee spend most of her time? Maddie. And then the person here is obviously her boyfriend, Jack D, and that's why it's redacted. But what was Kaylee's primary mode of transportation? Her car. Well, I would hope, Tolson knows about that she just bought a new car. So, like, maybe asking her some questions about that. Like, hey, did you hear about anything more about her car? Like, when she sold it? I mean, I get that the girl's just answering. The girl doesn't know how she's supposed to be answering this. She's just giving these answers, which I actually think are great answers. And then a detective would just divulge more into it. And the detective is going to get you to be more specific, you know? So current situation, please let us know about anything you feel may have contributed to Kaylee's death. Now, remember, the reason that I'm also going over this is because this girl was not the only person that got this. Also, this is not the only victim adult background questionnaire. All 4 victims had one, like that would have said like the name of, like, Xana or Maddie or Ethan. Okay. And this got passed out to, what I believe from reading the reports from this, is that it would have went to multiple people per person. Okay. Yet this is the only one that's uploaded. Where are these other ones? Who was handling them? And that leads me to believe that the FBI. Was handling this. And that's the FBI actually handled talking to all of like the Hunter Johnsons, the Emily Alance, because none of those people, and it actually comes out in one of the interviews in Idaho State Police, because I'm going to end with a little bang, that the FBI dealt with everybody at the White apartments. There was blood found outside the Whites on the second level of the balcony. Yeah, blood. The Gunderson found 1114, took pictures of it. It was never tested, though. Very strange. Yet they were just making up lies to get into Jack Showalter's apartment. So again, please let us know about anything you feel may have contributed to Kaylee's death. Potential stalker? What do you mean potential stalker? Well, then here's good old Gare. Or would you ask her about this? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. What? Yeah, I didn't ask her anything about that. Good old Gare. Gary Tolson. You need to fucking retire, man. Again, thank God for Othram. Number 2, tell us anything you'd like us to know about you and Kaylee. Okay, well, we spent a lot of time together with our dogs. Okay, what do you think? What do you think Gary asked her after that? Nothing. Not like, where did you guys spend time together? What would you do with your dogs? Like, okay, did you guys ever spend time without your dogs? This. And basically 5 and 6, throw those out. 4, a copy of this is attached, throw that out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sentences this man wrote. And guess what? All of them can be read in the report. This was not needed. This poor girl. It's like, why did you ask me these questions? Do you know who is responsible for Kaylee's death? No. Okay. List 5 things that could have led to Kaylee's death. Nothing is wrote. This girl's probably like, I have no idea. But here's Gary Tolson. Well, I noticed here on number 4, list 5 things that could have led to Kaylee's death. Okay. We'll go on to number 5 then. What a great comment right there. Apparently, it's really easy to be cleared of murder in Idaho. Great comment. And it's also really easy to become a suspect. Next question, number 5. Have you told law enforcement everything that you know about Kaylee? Yes. Yep, I bet you she did. Please provide, with as much information as you may have, the details of Kaylee's days during the week prior to and up to the day of her death. Please use additional paper if you need. Well, Kaylee worked from home. She hung out with her roommates and went out the weekend of her passing. Well, now I'm going to go back to, I mean, okay. Gary Tolson's been on the case, for a long time since it started, right? And I have one question for Gary Tolson. Gary Tolson, when you would have read this material that literally says, like, holy shit, family, mom, and dad, blank, 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 blank. That is everything opposite of what you have been told since being on this case. Blank told us that she thought that Kaylee was blank, 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 blank. Thought that she was what? That looks like in a fight, in something like what? That she was what? Estranged from her family? Blank told us that she thought Kaylee was like literally whoop, and was rarely in contact with them. What? She was rarely in contact with her family? You guys, this is like mind blowing. If you're Gary Tolson, you should be like, hey, Gilbertson, is that your name? Detective Payne? You need to see this, right? Instead, Gary just thanks, have a good day, and then writes up a report 3 months later. I mean, this is opposite. And I'm like, wait, what? What the fuck is this? Like, Kaylee was just with her dad, who went to make sure that she was okay. Okay, at the when she sold the one car, got the money, and then she was going to purchase the other car. Kaylee wasn't, though, in the weekend before the murders was parents' weekend. And well, first of all, you definitely wanted to ask, like, can you give me some specifics, or why do you think this? Where are you getting this from? Because this is everything opposite that you've ever been told or know. And Steve Gonsalves is literally beating down every door to find out what the hell is going on. But where was Kaylee the weekend before, like parents' weekend? She wasn't in Moscow, Idaho. And according to the roommates, they said that she was at home that weekend. Well, I don't know where Kaylee was that weekend. Because the car buying and selling happened the weekend actually of, the murders, pretty much. Like, it was that Friday. So when the roommates are all thinking that Kaylee's at home the weekend before, which is parents' weekend, it got me thinking that maybe Kaylee was like, I'm not going to be there because if my parents aren't coming, like I'm not, like, and everybody else has like their parents with them or something. And that she was like, I'm not going to be there. I don't know, but this is definitely something that I've never seen. And I think it's strange. And I think that, Gary Tolson should have been inquiring about this. And instead, Gary Tolson just doesn't do shit, doesn't do his job, and instead writes up a report 3 months later and literally is writing down what's on the piece of paper. Kaylee's ex-boyfriend, Blank, and Kaylee were still on good terms after the breakup. She knew that Kaylee had worked at a blank in Coeur d'Alene, and blank in a restaurant in CDA in the past. As far as she knew, Kaylee fully supported herself and paid for all the expenses while going to college. Her current job was with an online business who was owned by a blank and a blank. but it does not write how, oh, one of the members in her house works where Kaylee works. Like, that's kind of like a big deal. Like, don't you think that you'd want to talk to that person? If Kaylee is working at the same company, maybe that's how Kaylee found out about this job. I mean, this is just mind blowing. This was on December 7th. This was on the same day that, when does it go out to all of us to start looking for a white Hyundai Elantra? Kaylee had planned on moving to Austin, Texas, and she had a roommate lined up from the blank sorority. Blank, who was moving in with her. And that's who the person that was moving in with her wasn't until June, and that was Jordan. But who she was going to be living with for a couple months was some dude that she found online in October. Anyways, that's it. That's all he wrote. Like these dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great job, Gary. Awesome job. Stellar work. And then Gary wants to hide the fact on when he truly wrote the report. You didn't write this on 12/7, you lying sack of shit. This was wrote right before March 1st, 2023. Okay. Now we're going to close tonight's live with a bang. And this will lead into my tomorrow morning, my deep dives that I do, and I read some of the reports off. This is pretty mind-blowing. I think yesterday, today, everything that I've been reporting on is just absolutely, it's just, wow. Again, I can't say it enough, but if Othram isn't around and Othram isn't involved in this case goes completely unsolved forever, in my opinion. Because none of this work was going to lead to anybody. It's just fact. Okay, so now remember, if you've been watching my shows a couple nights ago, I did the surveillance. Maybe it would have been yesterday. I don't know. I've been going hard, but I talked about the fact that there was a vehicle that's on the cameras and it's sped up so you can't see what the vehicle is. It's actually coming back there that they're saying is the white Honda Elantra at 404. They speed it up and somebody manipulated the 1112 cameras. It's a fact now. That came from law enforcement and somebody had to have manipulated the time. It's period, end of story. If you haven't seen it, go back and check. It says surveillance and it was in the last day or two. So now I'm going to show you guys that this is report 143. And right here, it says serial number, which it's tip number 78. Okay. And it says, per tip information, reporting party is this name. Okay. They believe blank and blank, so first and last name, that these two people were subjects who should be contacted due to their long history with, redacted. Blank allegedly had previous weapon possession charges and drove a white sedan. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. You're going to sit here and tell me that this tip number 78 is talking about a white, like, this has to be after the community, right? Would know about a white sedan. All right. So I'm like, wow, that's really crazy that tip 78 that this person's talking about a white sedan. Because the public isn't supposed to know about a white sedan until December 7th. So either this is not a lay person, and the person actually putting it in through the tip line, again, would be law enforcement. But they're using the tip line to put it in. Just hear me out because of this number, the number 78. So it then says, investigators, and this is my comment where I'm like, well, who? What do you mean investigators? Investigators discovered that this person had an active warrant and attempted multiple times to contact him. Okay. But were ultimately unsuccessful. How did you try to contact them? I mean, this is a quadruple homicide. Okay. I don't know about you guys, but somebody in my community goes ham over the HOA and you didn't cut your grass so it's not, X amount of inches, whatever. The city's coming out and slapping a damn thing on your door and saying, this is going to be considered a misdemeanor if you don't have blah, blah, blah done and blah, blah, blah done. You need to move your boat. It's been sitting here for X amount of days. What? Like, they came out, like they come out to your house when stupid people are bored and walk their dogs and look and, oh, let me call down to the, the city to have them come down here. But here, you guys made effort to contact somebody that has a warrant, an active warrant. And so somebody called this tip in. It's like, who's this reporting party? What investigators were assigned to do this, right? Then we see here that it says that, well, guess what? We were unsuccessful. But guess what? During that time, Kohlberger was identified as the primary suspect and he was arrested. Okay, look at this. And what? Look at, there's nothing else. And what? Oh my God, there's nothing there. I'm like, wow. Okay. So then I was like, Now, if you guys remember my episode, like I said, the surveillance, you guys remember the surveillance episode. Here we go. Ready for it. Now, see how it says number 1. And then under number 1, it says A, B, C, D, E, F, because each one's a different tip. Okay. Then you get to this next page of the report. And it goes to F, then you got G, then you got H, and then you got number 2 here. Okay. So here I said, okay, what's this? On February 7th, 2023, Idaho State Police Detective Jake Schwecke and I interviewed blank, first and last name redacted, at the Moscow Police Department regarding information received in serial number 3195. I was like, okay, all of these other, like VC number, blah, 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 per tip information, do you see? Per tip information, reporting party, redacted, believed her ex-husband, blank, blank, should be investigated in relation to the homicides due to his alleged previous threats towards people and his blank at the University of Idaho. Investigators began evaluating the tip. However, before blank was contacted, this dude, Kohlberger, was identified as the primary suspect and arrested. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to do a show and we're going to read through these tips because we got people calling on their exes, okay? So, but do you see how it just said what the tip is about? Okay? Per the tip, blah, 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 believed that blank was a suspicious male who should be contacted due to the alleged activity making blah, 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 feeling uncomfortable for years. Look at this. I think you guys need to talk to this person because he's made me feel uncomfortable for years. But wait, we get to this right here on February 7th. Wait a second. Why aren't you telling us in this written report what the tip is concerning? Why isn't there per the tip information, reporting party said this? Watch this. On February 7th, 2023, Idaho State Police Detective Jake Schwecke and I interviewed blank at the Moscow Police Department regarding information received in this. Well, what information? Why aren't you writing it the same way that you wrote this one, this one, this one? There's a reason, guys, and I'm going to show you. After being advised of the nature of the interview, that means like after we told him why we're interviewing him and that it would be recorded, blank provided the following information. So we have no idea That means if you're a defense attorney and you receive this, you have no idea what this tip is about, but you know what all this shit is about. But when this guy's writing this up, he's like, hey, we're just not going to tell you guys what this one's about. So here's me, and I'm like, what was in 3195? Here's me saying, who called it in? When was it called in? Because I don't care when you did this shit. I want to know when this was called in, period. And what was it about? Now, this guy said he is a blank at the University of Idaho. I mean, that's either going to say a student, a faculty member. I mean, what is that going to say? A janitor, Goodwill Hunting. I mean, he is a blank at the University of Idaho studying blank and currently lives at blank, Moscow, Idaho. There's his address. Okay. On November 13th, 2022, he returned home at about 4:30 a.m. after playing video games at his fraternity house, which he identified as blank. Later identified, he called it something, it's in quotes, later identified as blank. Okay. Now, he parked his, look at all of that redacted. He parked his what? On blank, directly to the east of 1122 King Road. Do you know directionally what that means? What is directly to the east? Would be if you were in the King Road house, okay? The west bedroom on the first floor is the closest one and is the unoccupied room. It's closest to the 1112 house, okay? That would mean the east. If you are east, you are where? Where are you? Where would you park? He parked his blank on blank directly to the east of 111 or 1122 King Road. That means you are parking directly east, which means you are parking on that little street. The street that's right next up to the house. That's what you're parking on. You're parking on that street. You guys understand that? You're parking on the street that when you're making the loop to go around Queen Road and you're coming down right by the house, that's the street that you'd be parking on. Okay? Directly to the east of the house. Now, remember who's writing this up. We have no idea if the dude said 4:30. And also, it doesn't matter what the fuck he said on February 7th, okay? Maybe he really meant 4. Maybe his car is the 401 car that came up through, that they had to speed up really quick. Maybe his car's you guys get what I'm saying? On November 13th, he returned home at about 4:30 a.m. Well, that's off of his memory, right? He could have been home at 4:04. Check this out. After arriving home at 4:30 a.m., after playing video games at his fraternity house, which he identified as blah, 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 he then parked directly east of the house. This is what I've been saying. After returning home, he took his dog out to relieve itself. Do you guys remember? I have videos out there, and I was looking at Queen Road Apartments right there, right next to the house. When you walk up the stairs, that's right east of that road where you would have parked. When you walk right up there, a dog will start barking. Okay? A dog starts barking. There's a dog that was in that apartment complex. It's right there to the door to the right. I have it on video. So after returning home, he took his dog out to relieve itself at about 4:50, he's saying, to 5. Well, I would love to know this time frame on why who's ever writing this is saying, how do you know that you took your dog home? First of all, how do you know that you got home at 4:30? Second of all, how do you know that you took your dog out at 4:50 to 5 o'clock? I mean, that's 20 minutes after you would have gotten home. Wouldn't you be taking your dog out, like, I don't know, right away? Anyways, and he was walking to the dead end portion of blank directly to the south of 1122 King Road. Well, guess where that dead end portion is? That's where the cops allegedly say that Brian Culver parked and that Molly parked behind the house. That's that area. Never eat soggy waffles, okay? Northeast, southwest. Is that dead end that's back up on behind the house where they say Brian Culver parked, where they say Molly parked for a little bit. While out with his dog, he heard music playing from a nearby residence, as well as another dog barking in the area of, now I believe this is a typo, 1155 King Road, but didn't notice anything unusual. He returned to his apartment and got into bed. About 2 minutes after getting into bed, he heard a tapping on the window next to the front door. He peered through the blinds on the window, but didn't see anyone. Let me ask you a question. If you interview anybody on February, whatever the date was, 7th, what is it? February 7th. Where were you and what did you do on November 13th? I would be like, excuse me, I have no idea. I have no idea. What was the night of the murders? Well, if I live right there, how was this person not interviewed yet? How is this not tracked down yet? This interview right here needs to be obtained and listened to immediately. Immediately. Whatever this guy is saying to you, it's been so long. How do you know this would have been the night? Okay. You have no way. Like, how is this guy corroborating any of this? Okay. But after he begins to tell you what he thinks he did on 11/13, don't you think that you would be like, wow, okay, so this is interesting. That's why Ann Taylor was like, when you were going through these tips, how were you determining which ones were pertinent and which ones weren't? Who's making those decisions? Who's making those calls? And I need to know who called this in. It's not this guy. This guy didn't call it in. Who called this in? Somebody that he was playing video games with and that he knows where they live? I mean, what? He's like, I didn't notice anything unusual. I mean, I heard music playing. Oh, you heard music playing at 4:50 in the morning and a dog barking? He returned to his apartment, got into bed, and guess what? Just 2 minutes later, he remembers that, oh, that was the night that somebody came tapping on my window. Somebody came tapping on your window. And guess what he says? After learning of the homicides at 1122 King Road, he read reports and articles that he believed showed Culver could have been the subject who tapped on his window. Once the interview was complete, I transferred the audio recording to a compact disc and provided it to MPD evidence technician Tim Smallridge. Are you shitting me? This is of no... We got to just put this. And then this is what I think is hilarious is that this tip is written on something with 15 other tips. I mean, this is buried. This is so buried. But this is pretty significant. This is very, very significant. We need to know. Wouldn't you ask the guy, I don't know what kind of car you drive, buddy? Oh, wait, you did. All of this had to be redacted. That's a very long description. Did you ask him, hey, would you mind if we got your DNA? Hey, do you mind if you turn in, can we get your phone? Can we download your phone? How are you able to know when you actually got home, that all these times right? And then you saying that somebody tapped on your door the night of the murders, after you find out that there was murders, don't you want to ask him, did anybody come here and when we were canvassing and asking any questions. And then he's got a dog. Oh wait, they have a dog. Hey, have you ever seen the people? Did you know the people that lived at 11122? Did you ever see the dog? Who would you see walking the dog? I mean, you have no questions for this man? And you didn't call in to say, hey, somebody was tapping on my window after you find out about the murders? You're like, oh my God, that night, like, because it would have been like right afterwards. Hey, somebody was knocking on my window at 5 o'clock in the morning after I took my dog for a walk. I heard the music. I heard a dog barking. And then when I get back in the house to go to sleep, somebody's. When do you think this tip came in? Well, we don't know. We don't know. Because during the subsequent investigation following the homicides, boom, 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 I reviewed several tips and contacted or attempted to contact with several subjects. During this time, Kober was identified as the suspected perpetrator and arrested. So you were doing this before there was an arrest? What do you mean when it says during this time? Well, Brian Kober was only arrested one time, and it was for a couple hours. So was that when you were doing this, or were you doing it before? I mean, what are you talking about? How ridiculous is that? A defense attorney would have to ask this guy, okay, your report here says that during this time, Kober was identified as the suspected perpetrator and arrested. Can you please clarify that? We have the dates of all of these, but you don't mention the dates of when you got these. You just, here's the date, or here's the tip number, and then per the tip information. And you write that for all of these, except we get to, I don't know, the most important one. And you don't say anything about why this tip was called in and who called it in, right? And then this is what it says. And so therefore, a vehicle would have drove back. Well, did you see a vehicle at 4:30 that you've assigned this to, this man? Did you find his vehicle? Could have been before 4:30. And wait, what kind of car is this? And he heard a dog barking. And, he had a dog. Was his dog going crazy? Like another dog was like, they smell each other. I don't know. Just ridiculous, right? Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. They weren't solving anything. And it makes you wonder what was truly going on. It's like there was 3 investigations going. God knows what MPD was doing, except being maybe gophers for the FBI. I have no idea what the Idaho State Police were doing. They have no idea how to write up the reports properly. And this would be all the reasons in the world that you would need to do a plea deal with Brian Kober if you're the state, because there's a lot of problems. A lot of corners were cut. The integrity isn't there. And this is how somebody would walk if they truly committed a crime. This would be how they could walk. And the reason that the public needs to know what transpired is because Brian Kober may be behind the bars, okay? But the people that investigated this case are not. And if there's situations that are going on where people could actually be arrested prior to something like this happening, but they're not doing their job in policing, then crimes could happen that should have never happened if police were doing their jobs. Like, I mean, come on. These guys are not going to be able to find their way out of a brown paper bag doing stuff like this. I'm sorry, but this is just very, very sad. And people can say, Lana, why do you want to know about any of this or talk about any of this? And if this episode and the past 3 don't show you why, then I'm not going to connect A to B to C to D to E. I think it speaks for itself. This is horrible, horrible work. This is horrible. Horrible. And anybody out there that's saying that it's a good job, no, there's one person that you can thank for this, and that's Othram. And all I mean by that is Othram would tell you is that, hey, whatever we were provided with, we weren't there to see where they extracted the DNA, but what was provided to us, and then we got this hit and did, IgG and did all this stuff. And we went into databases that we shouldn't have. We're both the FBI lab and Idaho State Police lab. That's going to come out. It has to come out, because what doesn't make sense about that is that if the FBI is claiming that Othram is the best lab in the world, and they have a relationship with them to the point that they have a $400,000 contract that begins in September of 2022, why would the FBI ever take out of the hands of Othram working on the case? Why would the FBI ever come in and say, hey, why don't you let us do this and we'll take it over and we're going to go give it to somebody else in some other lab? That's never going to happen. Why that took place is because of the agreement and the money and the federal money, and the fact that they weren't using search warrants. But everybody wanted to be protected here. Their careers, their reputation. And so the Idaho State Police contract with Othram, they're not supposed to go into X, Y, and Z. We have federal funding, and if we use federal funding this way, you have to do it this way. Okay? Well, FBI says, all right, well, how about this? We'll just take it over, and nobody will know that who we're going to use as our lab, which is Othram. And we're just going to go into every database that we want to, because we're the FBI and we can do whatever we want. Right? Well, that's exactly what happened. And no, I don't fault anybody. That's just, why can't they just come out and say it? This is how we did it. But I agree with David Middleman. We don't need detectives that are doing this type of work. Go to IgG way sooner. Because this shit, David Middleman is 100% correct. This doesn't solve cases. What these people did. He said, you guys know how much money is paid out to police officers? How much billions of dollars is in salaries? Yeah, that's where the expenses is. And when I saw that Karen Reed's police were making like, I don't know, $200,000 and $300,000 a year. Yeah. Senior detectives. Here you go. This has to change. This type of work is how people get wrongly accused and convicted. And that's why the Innocence Project exists. Because of this type of work. Until next time, guys, look into February 7th, 2023. Tip number 3195. Get everything you can on tip number 3195 from February 7th. Get that audio. Thank you so much, moderators. You guys are great. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out. Hit the thumbs down. You have an opinion, make yourself known. CYN, new member, cheers. Rhonda, cheers. Thank you for joining. Tara Webb, thank you for becoming a member. Lacey, membership status. Melissa D, member for 24 months. You're the best. Oh, that's very kind. Thank you so much. Coffee Master, thank you. $5. Appreciate you. Layla, love the name. Hello, TNT and fam. Also, I've had a ton of people hit me up in Cash App or PayPal, and I'm going to kick off my live tomorrow and be thanking a bunch of people there that have donated over the weekend. So we love you. Moderators, thank you so much. Until next time, be kind. Good night.